The legendary Khali, who towered over his opponents at nearly 7 feet tall, was among the most menacing wrestlers of all time. Khali became a national icon in India after becoming the first Indian-born WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But that achievement isn't enough to compensate for the personal hardships, tragic losses, and immense pain that have marred his life. A member of an impoverished agricultural family in India, he was born Dalip Singh Rana. He had to drop out of school in 1979 to help feed his family after a severe monsoon wiped out their crops. After landing a job on a plantation, his enormous stature served him well in the physically demanding labor, but also made him an easy target for the local bullies. But he persevered through the daily bullying and other adversities, and his tenacity led to his recruitment as a police officer. He was able to purchase his first television set with the money he earned as a police officer, and it was on that little screen that he initially learned about professional wrestling. For the first time in his life, he watched someone on television who looked just like him, and he was shocked by what he saw. At this point in time, Khali's goal was to become a famous wrestler. Khali went from India to California to enroll in wrestling classes at All Pro Wrestling after saving up what appeared like a fortune. Khali experienced severe cultural shock upon her relocation to the United States. His low command of the English language and reliance on nonverbal cues made training a formidable challenge. After being signed to a contract with WCW in 2002, he had a tremendous opportunity, but he never appeared on television. The WWF purchased him in March 2001, but they declined to take him on as a contract player. This meant that Khali had to start all over with his training all over again, yet an unfortunate event occurred in May of 2001. While training with fellow trainee Brian Ung, Khali was perfecting a simple power move when an error became fatal. The attempt veered off course as Ung grabbed Khali's shirt as he raised him. Tragically, Ung was murdered by the impact of his own skull snapping back as he fell. The weight of the accident lingered with Khali even though he wasn't held responsible for it. A catastrophic and life-altering moment occurred. Khali, however, persisted. His pursuit of his dream persisted. Vince McMahon could no longer turn a blind eye to him once he began wrestling in Mexico and Japan. The legendary Khali made his SmackDown debut in April 2006 by going on top of the rope and glaring down The Undertaker. After that, he disposed of the corpse as if it were insignificant. In his pursuit of Khali, Vince McMahon spared no effort. Before facing The Undertaker in his first pay-per-view match on Judgment Day, he defeated opponents like Funaki and Rey Mysterio. In a straight-up singles match, very few opponents have ever beaten The Undertaker to this extent. And when the smoke cleared, the fans saw that Khali wasn't exactly a boxing prodigy. His incompetence and lack of mobility were evident even in shorter matches, when he was sheltered. However, Vince McMahon was still determined to push him. A rematch between the two men was scheduled for the Big American Bash. With WWE marketing the stipulation as Khali's unique design, this was set to be the first ever Punjabi prison match. Although Khali was originally scheduled to compete, he was removed from the match days prior because his liver enzymes were too high. The Big Show replaced Khali in the Punjabi prison match because WWE was afraid he would be involved in something illegal, even though there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Reached his peak in February. During this period, he exhibited more superhero qualities than those of a wrestler, as he faced off against the legendary Khali. Fans were not happy to see Khali in such a vulnerable position as he competed for the WWE Championship. The matches were bad. Even though his match with Kane at WrestleMania 23 was one of the worst in the history of the event, Vince continued to champion him. As everyone knows, Vince McMahon has a thing for giants. However, Khali's push was really about him trying to get into the Indian market. Vince believed that Khali could finally break through to the Indian audience and get them to watch WWE, since the country had long been considered as an undeveloped market for professional wrestling. In a 20-man battle royal, which WWE staged after Edge withdrew the World Heavyweight Championship owing to an injury, Khali won by simultaneous elimination of Kane and Batista. It was a monumental event for the Indian fan base. On the other hand, it was really a cunning marketing ploy to drum up even more support from those loyal customers. The sight of Khali as World Heavyweight Champion was reviled by fans worldwide. He was excessively large. As compared to watching Andre the Giant at his peak, watching Khali wrestle was a letdown. Considering his stature, Andre exhibited surprisingly quick reflexes. However, watching Khali was downright unpleasant. Even though WWE shielded him by making his matches brief, Khali's offensive was embarrassingly simple. Although Khali's size was the consequence of acromegaly, it typically amounted to little more than a chop, a kick, and the odd smash. A tumor on the pituitary gland causes this illness by causing the overproduction of growth hormone. Bone enlargement, joint pain, and limited mobility are long-term effects. The health issues that Khali was experiencing were, in many respects, a time bomb. Vince managed to promote him in India as a former world champion in the brief 61 days that he held the belt before losing it to Batista. Furthermore, Khali's physical condition was deteriorating simultaneously. The first parts of his body to give way were his knees. He endured excruciating knee agony for years after carrying more than 400 pounds, and he was forced to have 2 knee surgeries. Even more so than previously, he was severely limited in the ring after returning from that. His pituitary gland tumor was pressing on his brain, according to the doctors. In the end, his life was spared thanks to the emergency operation that removed the tumor. After WWE recast Khali as the Punjabi playboy, he moved into a mid-card comic role. Suddenly, he was a global champion who planted kisses on unsuspecting women in the audience. However, Jinder Mahal came in 2011, right as Khali's character started to become a punchline. Was presented as Khali's brother-in-law, the man who accused Khali of bringing dishonor upon his family by publicly disgracefully portraying himself on television. It was said that Khali was somewhat uneasy with the plot, which drew significantly on cultural prejudices. Even the Indian supporters thought it was deeply disrespectful to their culture. By 2014, Khali had grown increasingly distant from WWE and had been considering a departure for some time. A combination of his character change and his grudge with Jinder Mahal had made him extremely irritated. He was thus pleased to depart when his contract ended in November 2014. Returning to India in 2015, he established his wrestling school and promotion. A couple of years after his induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, he had a brief return to the company in 2017 and 2018 by competing in the Greatest Royal Rumble. Despite the hardships he has endured throughout his life, Khali emerged victorious from the wrestling industry.